survival. I'm Naomi Suzanne from Naomi's Home Health, and I'm a holistic health coach that specializes in thyroid and autoimmune healing using natural health solutions. So today's episode, number 25, is about the foods that we probably should avoid if we want to heal our chronic health condition. This is a really hard topic and very triggering for many people. Food is so important to people, and sometimes the thought of giving up their favorite foods or any foods at all is extremely triggering for them. But it is really important to understand why you have to give up some foods. Now, I don't, as a health coach, like to force anyone to give up foods or encourage anyone to give up all of these foods at once. For me, it's a slow process. You might have to give up one food, but I like to focus on adding in healing foods, which will be in episode 26. Foods we're going to add in, foods that are healing to us. This is going to be foods that are triggering. So let me start by saying that food is just a trigger. It's not the root cause or the reason that you are sick. It triggers things in your body, but the actual reason, if you've listened to any of my other podcasts, is usually like a viral load, pathogens, different things in your body is causing the problem. But food, real fresh whole food, is not the actual problem. It may trigger some things. Real fresh whole food actually cleanses and heals our body, and sometimes we're going to get a reaction from that, and it seems like it's triggering us, or it seems like it's causing a problem in our body, but it's not causing the problem. It's actually cleansing, healing, detoxing. And you can't get away with detoxing and getting rid of, chemicals and viruses and bacteria. You can't get away with that without feeling something in your body. Our digestive system is, a very complex system in our body, and it has pockets, it has all different little things going on in it, and food gets stuck in there, it gets old and rancid, and when we're cleansing that out, you're going to get some kind of stir up and you'll get some symptoms happening. So this is what happens when you eat real fresh whole food and you think it's causing issues in your body. Usually it's the other foods, and it's the virus, it's the bacteria, it's the mold in your body that is causing a lot of these things. So it's really important to understand what are some of the foods that are triggering these issues in your body. Food, we should be looking at food as nourishment. Often we are looking at it as a diet, which is a word I do not love if you've listened to any of my videos. We shouldn't be looking at it, people are focusing on calories and protein and carbs, and, it's a really stressful way to look at eating. Eating should be nourishing your body mentally, physically, emotionally, not just looking at how we can lose weight through not allowing our body to have certain foods. We shouldn't be restricting as such all the time because we want to lose weight. We should be healing our body, and the weight will fall off if you are eating fresh whole foods, and if you are active, and if you are healthy. If your body's not healthy, you will not maintain any weight loss. If your mental and emotional health is not stable, you will not maintain weight loss. Living in fight or flight or survival mode, where you've got lots of different types of adrenaline going through your body releases different types of adrenaline for different scenarios and scenes in your body, in your life, I should say, that triggers this adrenaline rush, right? So if you have that constantly flowing through your body, it's like battery acid, and it causes inflammation, it causes weight gain, it causes a lot of issues in your body. If that's happening, weight loss is going to be extremely difficult to achieve, let alone maintain. So please stop focusing on losing the weight. It was something that I focused on a lot. I focused on, because I was gaining weight uncontrollably, and I was a very fit and healthy person. Well, I wasn't healthy. I was fit and I was eating well. Um, you know, I just could not stop focusing on how I was going to lose this weight that I was uncontrollably gaining. So I was doing more exercise, which was adding more adrenaline to the body. I was, stressing about it. Again, adding more adrenaline, cortisol, all of these things were just causing me to gain more weight and putting my body under more stress. And I was getting less healthy by thinking I was, trying to lose weight and becoming more healthy. So it's a vicious cycle. So food like fresh whole foods has tremendous healing powers. We should be looking, instead of at the calories and things that I said, we should be looking at vitamins, minerals, phytochemicals, enzymes. Fruits, vegetables, herbs and spices and wild foods are our body's savior. It's something that is going to help our body heal on a natural level, okay? So I will discuss that more in the next episode. But today we're going to discuss foods that are keeping us sick. And if you're not well and you keep eating these foods and keep doing the same thing, then obviously you're going to stay in the same state. So making changes is really, really important. So plants and humans, I've said this before, share the same DNA structure. So when we consume a plant, our body accepts it and understands it because it's the same DNA structure as ours. We use the plants in our body the same way the plant uses those enzymes, phytochemicals, essential oils, the lifeblood of the plant. Our body uses those things the same way the plant does. So that's the defense mechanism of the plant, right? It's the nourishment of the plant. That's what happens in our body as well. So our body is defended against viruses, mold, bacteria when we consume plants or plant medicine, herbs, spices, all of those things. That is why it's important to add those into our body, as well as the living water that's in plants and that it hydrates our body at a cellular level. So surely by now we all know that preservatives, processed food are things that we should avoid. They affect the brain, they affect our mental health, and we're feeding them to our growing children. It affects our body, it affects how our cells divide and rejuvenate and detox. So processed food has little or no nutrients. It doesn't sustain us. It doesn't fill us up. We're hungry, half an hour later because it's not nourishing food. So when you are feeding yourself or your children these foods, you're not really getting any nourishment. It's empty calories is what most people would say. It's empty nourishment. So our body tries really hard to eliminate these processed foods, and it works extra hard trying to get rid of it because it's chemicals. Our body doesn't like synthetic chemicals. It loves natural foods and it tries to eliminate these foods, and it struggles to do that. So it puts more pressure on our organs, particularly our liver and our digestive system, when we're eating processed foods full of non-natural foods. So the foods and ingredients I'm about to mention can feed existing viruses, bacteria. It can lead to inflammation. It feeds fungal infections. It can reduce the digestive function, weaken the immune system, can put a strain on our glands, our lymphatic system, our organs, and they also have an impact on our brain function and emotional health. So sometimes you will notice if you eat certain foods, you can feel a different way. You can feel emotional. This triggers things in our emotional center of our brain. When it affects our brain, it also triggers the emotional center. So the first food that you should be wary of when you are trying to heal a chronic illness or become healthier and prevent chronic illness is soy. It used to be a really healthy food, but almost all soy products have been genetically modified or they're contaminated with genetically modified foods. And they contain added MSG, which we will get into in a minute. So stay away from, the fake meats. If you're a vegan or vegetarian, stay away from those fake meats. They're full of preservatives. They're full of soy, and it can feed all those things in the body, as I mentioned. Seed oils is another food we should be avoiding. Canola, corn oil, grapeseed, soybean, sunflower, safflower, rice bran oil, peanut oil, particularly canola oil, as it's mostly genetically modified. So it creates a huge amount of inflammation in the body. It damages the digestive system. It feeds viruses, bacteria, fungus, and mold. It also causes vascular damage. Seed oils are made through a chemical process where they're bleached, refined, heated, and then that's how they make them usable. So it has to go through that process in order for them to get in a bottle. Then they're put in a plastic bottle, which leaches into the oil as well. So plastics are things that we need to be avoiding. So seed oils are extremely damaging to our health, and they should be something that we should get rid of. And they are in almost all processed food. So the processed food that you're eating, not only are the preservatives causing issues, but the seed oils as well. Now, this is going to trigger a lot of people in the fitness industry, but eggs can be a massive issue if you're trying to heal from a chronic illness. They are full of nutrients, yes. And people will tell you, but they're full of protein, they've got all these nutrients. Yes, they do. But at the same time, when they once were an amazing food before the chronic, the epidemic of chronic illness and autoimmune disease, they feed viruses, bacteria, mold, candida, and other fungus that can cause inflammation. They can also trigger edema in the lymphatic system. So if you're healing from something, avoiding eggs can be really beneficial. I think, sometimes we need to take out what we've learned and unlearn some things when we are healing. Sometimes, you will go to a practitioner or a health coach or somebody, and they'll be like, you need to eat more protein, and they're getting you to smash eggs. Well, you're actually feeding a lot of the problems in your body a lot of the time. It's not going to hurt you to avoid eggs. You're not going to miss essential nutrients. There's plenty of nutrients in fruits, vegetables, and things like that. They have a lot of healing properties. So just try it for a little while and see how you go. But please don't be triggered by it, because I know people are like, I love eggs and they give me the essential protein and blah, blah, blah. It's a big deal for some people, but sometimes you just have to try things in order to see how it goes. Dairy. Now, this was the trigger for me. I bloody love cheese. I don't like milk or anything like that, but cheese is like one of my favorite foods ever. So when I gave up dairy, it was distressing to me. So while I was healing, I was strict, didn't have any dairy or anything like that. Every now and then I might have a tiny bit here and there, to be honest, but I know what it does to the body, and I try to avoid it as much as I can, because it contains a lot of fat that can put a strain on your already struggling liver. The liver struggles to process fat when it's sluggish, and it can affect the digestive system. It contains lactose, where there's a combination of fat and sugar, which has negative effects on health. So it can spread viruses and bacteria. It can cause excess mucus that we produce. I know when I was younger, I had some kind of virus or something going on in my body. And the doctor told me to stay off dairy. I remember that I had to give up dairy when I was younger. So it's been a long time that people know this. It's just that they think, oh, if we eat good dairy, eat or drink good dairy, it's going to be okay. Or there's some people who will get you to add a lot of dairy in. I know I had a health coach that did that, and I was that inflamed. My ankles were huge. Like my body, I was in so much pain because she was getting me to eat more fat, and it caused so much problem in my body, and I gained a lot of weight from doing her program. So sometimes you got to, be aware of what triggers you in your body and what are things that are feeding the problem. And I knew once I went off dairy, it was a major difference for me. So today's dairy industry is actually forced to give hormones, antibiotics, genetically modified foods, corn, soy, and gluten to their cows. So not, you're consuming these things when you're consuming their milk and when you're consuming a cow a lot of the time. So if we can get, grass fed and cows that haven't been injected with a lot of things, then it's a lot better for you to eat that meat. So pork, it's really hard to digest and it's very high in fat, so it puts a strain on the liver. Farmed fish, which are bred in small enclosed spaces, they breed algae, parasites, and other diseases. They get fed antibiotics to prevent all these things. And the water is treated with a lot of toxic chemicals. So if you can avoid farmed fish and get wild caught fish, that you're better off. Gluten, this also triggers people. Gluten is a protein found in many grains, and these grains contain many allergens and proteins. And yes, it is hard to give up gluten. You don't have to give it up straight away. Give up one thing at a time. But this also triggers clients. I love bread. Well, guess what? Do you love being sick? No, you don't. So sometimes you just got to put yourself first before your pastries or your breads or whatever, and it can be difficult. But if you want to avoid a lot of these health issues, then sometimes you've got to do what you got to do. I know better than anyone how hard it is to give up bread. Trust me, if I could put bread and cheese together and it healed me, I would eat that all the time. Like they're the two top foods for me. I absolutely love them. So when you're telling me that you love bread or dairy and it's so hard to give up, you're preaching to the choir. Like I get it and I've done it. So I know it causes inflammation, especially in the digestive tract and the bowel. It confuses your immune system. It is highly sprayed, it's genetically modified. Wheat isn't the same as it was 50 years ago. The wheat that our grandparents or great grandparents ate is not the same as what we're consuming today. So there's a lot more gluten in it. Um, it's sprayed with up to like, I think about 14 different chemicals. Roundup, all of those things. There's a lot of dead birds, insects, animals in wheat fields because of what it's sprayed with, and we're consuming that. So, yeah, it's mostly the inflammation that gluten causes, and it feeds the virus and the bacteria in your body as well. MSG is a food additive. I'm sure you've heard of it, especially in Asian cooking. It builds up in your brain and goes deep into your brain tissue. It causes inflammation, swelling, it disrupts the electrical pulses in your brain, it weakens neurotransmitters, and it also weakens the central nervous system. And again, it's in a lot of processed food. Natural flavors. This is just hidden MSG. So read the labels of your foods. There's a lot of foods coming out now that don't have all these artificial flavors and colors. So that processed foods that you can eat that are not too bad. But if you can make as much food as you can, and I know people say they don't have time, but I think we do a lot of things in our life that we don't need to be doing. We could be putting more energy and time into making our own food and less energy and time into doing other things that we really don't need to be doing. And if you're tired and exhausted, it's probably because, you're not making your own food a lot of the time. Making your own food, you're having a connection to your food as well. And that's really, really important. So the artificial flavors, they're just chemicals made in a lab and you're eating those. We don't want to be eating toxic chemicals. Citric acid. Now, it's not as bad as some of these other ingredients, but it's found in a lot of supplements. So when you are purchasing a supplement, be mindful if it's got citric acid in it because it irritates the lining of your stomach and your intestinal tract and it creates inflammation. So it's not the same as naturally occurring acid in citrus. Citrus is a healing food. Citric acid is an irritant, basically. So there's some of the foods that you should be considering to be mindful of when you are trying to heal or prevent a chronic illness. Seed oils are probably one of the easiest to give up. Next week, I'll discuss a lot. You're taking out a lot of these foods, and we're going to be adding in a lot of food. So, when we're discussing seed oils, I'll be telling you the oils to add in. I'll be telling you what you can have instead of all these other foods. But adding in, as adults, we don't put as much emphasis on eating fresh fruits as what we do to our children. Like we're cutting up our kids some fruit and we're giving them little fruit platters, but do we do the same for us? I know I wasn't. I love fruit, but you sort of get away from it sometimes and you have snacks, that are full of gluten and that are already made, but now, I make my own granola, I make my own muesli bars, I make all these different things, and it takes 5 minutes. It's not long to make some of these foods, but at least you know what's going in them and you don't have all these nasty seed oils and MSG and colors and flavors and all of those things. So it's really important to try and be mindful of what you put into your body when you're healing because nutrients is what's going to heal our body, nourishment, all of those things. So those foods are very important to try and at least start to reduce. Seed oils are probably one of the easiest because you can use extra virgin olive oil, you can use coconut oil, you can use other oils. So try and be mindful of that to start with and just do one at a time. I'm all about making one change at a time, not going in headfirst and removing everything and then freaking yourself out, not being able to do any of it at all because it's like, well, what do I do now? So think about it. Next week on our episode 26, it'll be foods that are going to help our body heal and why they help our body heal and how we can incorporate them into our lives. I incorporate a lot of things all the time, whether it be I make myself a drink with ginger, turmeric, lemon, honey, all of those things. We're going to be talking about all of that. And it is really important to start focusing on these things and adding in these foods to help us. So if you have resonated with any of my podcasts, any of these episodes, please share it with friends. Make sure you follow. Get people involved. This is not just for people with thyroid and autoimmune disease. It's for people who want to be healthy. This is what true health really is. Not popping pills, not running to the doctor and saying, fix me. It's up to you to create a better health environment in your body. And only you have the power to change that by the things that you do every single day, creating new lifestyle habits. That's what it's all about. You're not going to out supplement a poor diet. You're not going to be able to get away with not cutting out some foods and just thinking that you can do a diet that, reduces carbs or adds in more protein. Anything like that, we should be avoiding. We should be focusing on just nourishing our body at a whole level. So make sure you follow this podcast and join me next week for Foods to Add In.